Hey everybody, it's Donelle McAdams and Megan.
Hey everybody.
We are excited to be back with you this week. I've been pretty pumped about this whole project all week, and so I hope that you have also, and maybe some of you have even made the project and are ready to quilt it. If not, you can watch all of what we're doing today and we'll see what's going on and we'll decide what you want to do with it. So if you haven't gotten the download, I put it up about 3 hours ago in about 6 spots. The normal ones, Westalee by me, Sew Steady's Facebook page, and we've also put it up on All Things Quilting and Sewing with Donelle McAdams, my SewBiz page, and my website, sewbizmarion.com. So I think when you say you're having trouble with it, you're not realizing when you click on the link, it actually goes to your download file. So in your upper right-hand corner, if you have PCs, there's a download arrow, and when you click on that, it will actually open up. So if you're having issues, I can tell you that it's probably one of those things. So excited to share with you this week. I did add one thing to the handout and changed a few others. So I actually changed all of this because you guys had such great input last week. We changed our colors up. So I wanted to make this work for the project supplies with the colors that we had. So the only additional item that I made on the handout is I am going to be using the circles on quilts because I got to thinking last Saturday night afterwards when I was getting my vision for where we were headed with this. Circles on quilts, buttons and bows, buttons are round, we needed some more circles. So if you've not used the Circles on Quilts template, now I know we have templates called Circles on Quilts because that's what Wreath number 16 is. But this is truly a Circles on Quilts template. Let me see if I can get one of my black pieces here to show you. So when I lay that down, you can see it a whole lot better. But this is the Circles on Quilts that we can do circles with. And so we're going to be using that today. If you don't have this set, don't just get the 2-piece set. Get all 4 pieces so you can do all the sizes of circles that you need. Because you can see here, this one is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. And if you want to do the odd numbers, you got to have a different template. So then you've got to have the one that's 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11. Well, then you want to have them so that they're like 1/4 inch apart. So you want the 3.5, the 5.5, the 7.5. And then you want the even ones. Whoops, wrong template. I've got several sets here. Here we go. And so that way you've got all the templates that you need to do all the different sizes of circles. And remember, when they're measuring this, they're measuring from the center out. So if you're doing a 3.5 inch circle and you go to the 4-inch circle, that's only going to be 1/4 inch different when you go around because it's a whole, let's start again. It's a 1/2 inch, but that means the whole circle's a 1/2 inch bigger. So that means it's only 1/4 inch larger around. And we're going to be using that today. If you've never used it, you're probably going to be kicking yourself once you see it because it's really, really easy. And I'll tell you the tricks that I found to make it even easier. So before we get started, does anybody have any questions? Like from last week, something that you saw or you were wondering about or anything like that? Go ahead.
No questions yet. We're just super excited about part 2 though.
All right. So this is the second page of the handout. And it's my attempt to show you what we're going to be doing because I don't have all of those fancy programs. Actually, I do have those fancy programs, but I don't have the skills in between my ears to use all of those things. So I just have to do shaping. And I think this one turned out pretty good for you to be able to follow. The legend down here, or the key, like what we have to read a map, if anybody still reads a map, shows you what's going on with these templates. So all of these that look like this, and you can see there's some in all 4 corners, and then all 4 corners of the center block. That is one we're going to be using the Spinifex for. Then the Spinifex 4 is also used for all of these spots. So we're going to be doing that. Now this is not a border here. That's just the spacing so that you can see the difference in what it's going to be. And you'll see that we've got a half of a shape here. So when we do this one, we're going to have a half of a shape. So we'll be starting over here and finishing clear over there. So I just want you to know the difference in that. And then down here, we're going to do bows. Now, right now in this picture, those don't look like bows because they're not rounded, but that's going to be bows. And just for information, if you've got a pencil handy or a pen, you're going to want to write down here that we're going to be doing 7 of those. So when you look across here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, your picture looks like 7. It is 7, but I can tell you it will not come out as close down here on the ends. And then the big 4 pieces that we have there, those blocks, I left the shadowing around it so you could tell the difference between this one and that one. But those are the 4 that we're going to be using with our Circles on Quilts Wreath 16 that I showed you last week. I think I might have showed you what it looked like. So that's going to be the 7.5. Now I know that some of you have ordered that this week because I got some orders for some of those, and you wanted to go ahead with the 9.5. No problem, because of the fact that you can use that in a lot of different places. I'm going to give you a tip. You're going to end up using the whole set. So you probably are going to save some money if you just get the whole set, because you're going to find a lot of uses for it. And then the other part here is the Circles on Quilts, which is nothing more than a true circle. So that's why I put that down there. And so this is pretty much what we're going to be doing today. We won't get it all done, but we will get enough going that you'll know what you're going to do. So I kind of got a little bit of a jump start on you here while I was waiting to get started today. And so you can see that I've got 2 circles around, which follows what my little template said there. And so I put that around the bow part. So I'm right in the middle. And the reason I wanted to obviously start in the middle is because that's what we've heard all along, that when you quilt, you should start in the middle. Do I break that rule sometimes? Absolutely, because I know the quilt police do not have the authority to arrest me anyway. So I've done 2 of those circles, which we've got 4 more of those to show you. And so I've got some threads here that I've got to deal with. And so I'm going to start out by, this one's already got both of the threads to the front, but there is one that's they're still on the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my cinch needle, which most of you are familiar with by now. This is what the packet looks like. And I use the great big one out of the packet. And I'm going to hold it right up here to the screen so that you can see what it looks like. It'll come in just a second there, I hope. Well, anyway, it's a side threading needle.
There we go.
So now you can see it. It has a little opening in it that the threads are going to go in. So that thread there that needle there has a large enough opening that the threads are going to fit in there. So I'm going to take all of these threads here. I'm going to fit them in that side threading needle, and I'm going to go right back to the back so that I can bury these threads. Now, I'm going to stop at this point and show you a little trick, okay? Because I really don't need to go to the back. Because this right here does not stop there. I actually stitched in the ditch so that I didn't have to stop and redo all of this. So at this point, I can actually bury these threads from the front. So I'm going to take them out of that cinch needle, and I'm going to tie it, and I'm going to tie it again, and that's all I really need to do, because that's a knot. And now I'm just going in right beside that spot there, and even from the front, I'm going to actually be able to get right in that seam. And I don't know how many of you did do some piecing this week, but if you did it with the 60 weight thread, you're probably going to love, love, love that. And you can see that's almost 1.5 inches to 3/4 away from where I went in. So I'm just pulling that underneath there, and my knot has already buried itself so I don't even see it. So now all I have to do is kind of pull this up. I like to say that's the cinching part of it, but that's actually the name. And I'm just going to pull that up and give that a cut, but I'm not right. You can see that I'm not right down there beside my fabric, but because I cinched it up when I cut that and lay it back down, the needle or the thread just goes right back in underneath there. So that tail is about that long and it's not going to be an issue. Now this thread, the other one is on the back. Now I could do one of two things. I could bring the back to the front or the front to the back. And I think I'm just going to take the front to the back.
So while you're doing that, Cheryl, you had mentioned something about buying the whole set. What was the whole set and how much is it?
You know, I don't know. I'd have to get online to look. It's probably about $60 or $70. It's the whole set of templates that are, I need that black piece again, that look like this. So that whole set of templates, they have little ones clear up to big ones. And each one of them has your echo here, which I'm going to teach you how to use today. So that's a whole set of those templates.
I'll see if I can find it online.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be flipping this over. But before I do that, I want to tell you that I've told you this before. I'm a sprayer. So I've got my quilt all put together. Now I know some of you are excited about this week because this is about 40 inches by 40 inches. And many of the projects that we show you are smaller and you don't know what it's like to quilt something big. So I have taken everything from around me. My templates are on a tray behind me. My crosshair grids is what I'm trying to say, are away from me because I want all of this space. So you can see here, I have sprayed so that this is stuck to, and I'm also in this case using 2 layers of batting, mainly because this was a really thin bat. And so I wanted to use 2 layers to get it so it was just a little bit thicker. I got a thread. As I find a thread, I can't stand it. I got to get rid of it. If you don't have a little pair of sharp scissors or something like that, I will tell you they're worth their weight in gold. And then I've got my extra fabric out here on the edge. Now I'm going to tell you, you need to have, for the method I'm going to show you today, you need to have 1.5 inches greater. So you need 1.5 inches greater of your fabric all the way around for the binding method I'm going to show you. But that's going to come later. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold this up so I can get right in here to where these threads are. And I'm going to just, again, there's only 2 of them because I didn't start and stop in the same place. This is a stop. The other one was a start. You'll notice I got carried away and did 3. It's not going to matter. I'm going to take this and I'm going to go right in by where my knot is. I'm going to slide that through in the batting and pull it through. And you can see that knot right there until I pull on it. And if it was really light, you couldn't hardly hear it, but I could hear it pop in there. I'm pulling that up to cinch it and I'm cutting it so I don't cut my fabric. And so now those threads are buried. Always bury your threads. If you don't want to invest in cinch needles, find something, but I will tell you it makes it so much easier. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here since I just did that circle, and I am going to do what was going to be planned for these corners. Now if you look at your pattern, that's where I'm using my Spinifex 4. And that's part of the sampler set. Now on this one, in the picture, I've got 8. But if you wanted to, you could use your 6-point crosshair grid, and you could do that. You could position it in several different ways so there wasn't one on a seam line. You can do all kinds of things with it. I'm going to use the 8-point, mainly because I think it looks better with the design that we're going to do on the other spots. So I'm going to put this on there so that I have got my 8 points, and one of them is going to be going straight through our bows like this. So that means I've got one that's going to be on all 4 of those join lines. So I'm just simply holding this in place. When I prepared my fabric for today, before I put my top onto my batting, I sprayed it and pressed it, sprayed it and pressed it again with my Starch Savvy or your Best Press, either one of those. So I've got a purple marker here so you can see what's going on, and I'm going to be making those marks with my Frixion pen. It's amazing to me how many people are still out there arguing about these, but I will tell you I have no problem with them because of the fact that I starched that first to put a barrier down so I'm not going to have an issue. Now this particular design does not need a pen in there, so I'm going to be starting right in the center, and I'm going to put my foot down first, and you can see I can't move that. So I want to go on, and I'm going to raise up, or I might have to. This is a Viking, so this is the foot that goes with this machine. So it's going to adjust as we do this. I'm going to pull my thread up first, and this is going to have a long thread. So I can either rotate my hand wheel, or in this case, I have a button right here I can touch. I raise up my foot, and I floss underneath here. And so I'm bringing up both threads. I'm replacing that. I want to make sure I get right in the center before I put my needle down. And I'm going to put my template so that the small end is right up around my foot, and right out here I want to make sure that my etching is right on top. Now, if you've done this correctly, you could use this etch line to line up with this line, and right back here that etch line to line up with that line. So I don't have to jump out of my seat and look over over the back of my machine. I can see where that's at. And so now I'm just going to stitch. And remember, I have set my machine so that I'm at medium speed, and I am simply pressing my foot control, which is backward, clear to the floor. Now, I like to do opposites, or at least like I'm skipping one. So let's go around here to this one, and this is an opposite. So now I'm going to do this one over here. And the reason I like to do it this way is twofold. It holds my fabric in place, but it also gives me the opportunity to say, oh, I think I might like that without having those other ones. I'm going to raise my foot here just a smidge. Oh, I didn't want to raise my needle. Don't start this machine. There we go. I want to get my thread out of the way. Uh-oh, it didn't like it at all, so it broke it. So good time to show you what's going to happen, and I know you guys love seeing that. So the thread is clear out here, and I'm going to just use my seam ripper to let it know who's boss.
And while you're doing that, for those who are asking about the circles on Quilt's Wreath set, I have posted the link in the comment thread that will take them to that website where the link is for them.
So they want to know how much was it?
It came to about, I think, $96, but it depends on if they get the 3-piece set or the 5-piece set.
Okay.
So
I'm about back to the center here, because this is something I'm just not going to hack it off and move on, because this is a project. And so right now that thread's not wanting to cooperate, and that will happen when you're doing any kind of free motion, because it's probably gotten tucked in with something else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave those threads, because I can deal with those when I tie them. So what I'm going to do is I always raise my foot completely to its highest, and I'm going to snip off my thread here because it looks like it was shredding a little bit. So I'm going to take that off there, and rethread completely with your foot in its highest position, not there, but highest, and that way your tension discs are open and they are ready to accept the thread. And so let's go ahead and thread that needle. And we are going to set that foot down. And my machine is one of those machines that, has to tell me everything, and until I answer some of those questions, it's not going to let me move on. So there's my bobbin thread already. And all I need to do is pull that.
Linda just loves how you tell your thread who's boss.
Well, you got to, because you are the boss. So here's my thread. It's still connected underneath, and that's okay, but I'm going to leave it in a loop, but I'm going to leave it long enough. And some of you are going, that's too many threads. Well, I know exactly what each one of them is for, and I also know exactly what I need to do with them when I get back around. So we're going to keep them out of our way, and we're just going to continue on here. I'm going to go back this direction. And now I've got the other 4 to fill in. And when I got back this time, it's not exactly in the center. So I am rotating my hand wheel so that it's up, but I'm not lifting my foot up. And I keep rotating it until I can just move it right back into the center spot. Your hand wheel was only designed to rotate forward. When you've got thread in your machine, never rotate your hand wheel backwards. So I rotated it all forward. I'm coming to this point. I'm coming around this direction. And for some reason, I've got a huge skip here. Boy, is this going to be a fun day or what?
Well, that is actually kind of timely because Jay just asked when their Viking starts, it hops. And they noticed yours didn't, but...
Okay, so excellent point. Good that you asked. I would say, first of all, I want you to put in the comments so Megan can tell me what Viking you have. Because I would imagine, you notice I clipped that thread right there, because this is where, right here in this seam, is where it's not connected. So that's where I'm going to come back to. And the way I do that is I go ahead and I put my needle right where it needs to be to position my template only. Okay, I didn't drop my needle. I've just got it so my template is positioned. And now I'm going to move this back to that spot. We're going to get this all figured out here in a second, but I just wanted you to see what I was doing there. Okay, so what Viking does she have? What do you have?
She's still getting to me.
Okay, so I just defeated what I just did, so I got to do it again. Okay, here's the deal on Vikings. This is an epic. It is not an epic 2. It's just an epic. And I can tell you, with that being said, notice here again, I'm diverting, so this is a sidebar. I've set my foot where it needs to be, but my needle is not down in my fabric. And I'm setting it so my template is set right, and then I'm just moving back here, and this is where I'm going to pull up my thread. Now, getting back to what I was talking about, if you have an epic, a brilliance, you have the option of a foot from Viking, and that's what I have on here right now. And if you are using that, that means you also have the option to set your machine for actual ruler work. So when you go onto your machine and you touch free motion, if you have updated your epic or your brilliance to have the ruler work option, you select ruler work. and everything will work fine. No jumping around, feed teeth are lowered. But if you have a diamond, a ruby, a topaz, a sapphire, any of those machines, you do not, I repeat, you do not want to select free motion work. You want to leave it on straight stitch. You put this foot on, you center your needle, and you lower your feed teeth. And if you have, I know exactly what you're talking about because we've dealt with this before. It took me 1.5 years to figure this all out. So you do not want to use free motion because the beauty of that machine is the fact that it will allow you to have perfect height, and that's the jumping around that you're talking about. So it tries to jump around on ruler work, and we don't want that. So if you will just do what I just said and not use any kind of free motion setting, just leave it on straight stitch, you are going to love me for telling you that because it will make all the difference in the world.
So they've gotten back. Jay's got a Topaz 50.
Yeah.
Got some others. Lillian says she's got a Diamond.
Yeah.
Lori says she's got a Designer 1.
Right. And all of those machines you just mentioned, ladies, no free motion setting. Don't use a free motion setting. Just leave it set for straight stitch. Put your foot on, get your height adjusted, put your needle in center position, lower your feed teeth, and go. So on your lowering your feed teeth, you may not even know this, but you can go into the settings, and where it says feed teeth, when you touch it, it'll open up another menu, and it'll say auto, or it'll say down, or it'll say up. You just tell it you want it down. All right, this one has given me all kinds of fits. I'm not even going to take the time to do these threads. We're just going to go do another one so that you can see what it's supposed to look like. So we've managed it. You can see it there. It's going to be beautiful. It's a good distance away from the other one, but it gave me fits. So let's go over to this one now and try it.
Did you say that they can do that with the Topaz 50 as well?
All topaz.
Okay.
All of those jewel machines, diamond, ruby, topaz, sapphires, all of those machines. It will make 100% difference. You will just begin to love ruler work. I had to, when I was first doing this, I was using a Topaz 30, and that machine was jumping up off my templates, breaking threads, nicking my templates, doing all kinds of ugly things. So I know exactly what you're talking about. It took me about 1.5 years to resolve those issues. And I have tried to make sure that anytime I teach, I tell people who have those machines what they need to do with them.
I'm so excited for Penny. She just got her Bernina up cleaned and ruler work upgraded. So good to go.
Good to go. All right. So we're coming into the middle of our template. I'm putting my foot down. I'm coming to those seams where they cross. Needle down, needle up, foot up. And I'm going to bring this thread out. Put my foot back down. I get all of this set and get my needle in position, and then I worry with my templates. And I don't mean worry, I just get them straightened around. So I've got that set up. All right. I'm going to lower my foot because it's still skipping threads. And when it's skipping threads, that is what the issue is. So I've broken this thread. Just give me just a second. Go ahead and ask another question.
Nanine said she's still having issues with her 50, her Topaz 50, that something's not working on it. So
hit me up. Tell me what it is. I wish we could be live and hear you talk, but you're going to have to...
And while we're waiting on that, Jackie wants to know, she just joined us a little late. Which template again are you using for
I'm
those?
using the Spinifex 4. And those of you that your screen is big enough, you can see what I had here, this great big skip stitch. And so since some of you have not taken my very beginning class, it's free. It's on the Sew Steady site. I'm not sure when it was. I think it was in March like 18th or something like that. That's the beginning class. And when you are stitching, if you have skipped stitches and or shredded thread, it's because your foot is not low enough. And so that's what I need to lower my foot on this one. I usually use the Westalee foot, and today, because I was using this machine and had some things I wanted to tell you from the Viking point of view, this is a Viking, that's why I am having a little trouble here with getting this. I didn't have any trouble when I did my circle, but I'm having a little issue right here. So now that I've got this all out, I will also tell you that the most difficult direction to stitch is from lower, as you're sitting in front of your machine, is from lower right to upper left. And that's where my machine is skipping stitches. So I'm going to win this one way or another. I've only got about 6 stitches here, so hang on. We didn't talk about thread. I'm using a 40 weight. I'm using Superior today. I pulled out a glide thread, and it was just a little bit whiter than I wanted. This is kind of an eggshell color here. And so I'm using a Superior thread, and it is on a cone. And this machine has a holder for a cone. And so I don't have any issues. But if you don't have a cone holder on your machine, you can get what's called an auxiliary spool pin. Get one of the metal ones, because the plastic ones fall over. So funny to say, ladies, part of the reason I said my machine wasn't moving that was because that longer piece, I don't know if you can see this, was in front of me and caught. Now I can move it easily. And so what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to get out a couple of my Wonder Clips.
So the problem of having a bigger
machine kind of showed up here.
Well, and a bigger project than what we're
That's
used
what
to.
I meant, a bigger project. So I'm using some Wonder Clips, and I'm clipping this so that it won't, and I'm just using my small ones here, and I'm clipping that so now that I can move this. So the little things that you don't think of, I just realized when I started to move it, it's like, whoa, it's off the edge and it's caught against me. So let's go ahead and put our foot down, put my needle down, my needle up, and now because I cut that last thread, I need to get my tweezers. And I don't know if I've shown you this before, but when I'm at a show, you get to see all of this stuff. I'll pull this over here. I have everything and more that I have. I don't know, Megan, you might need to pull it back. This is called my It's So Emma Stash and Store. And all of these little silicone spots are adjustable. So I have everything from my cleaning brush to my permanent markers and my duckbill scissors and my different markers and things, all in that stash and store. And so everything, including my tweezers, that's where they are. I know exactly where they are, and I know they're going to stay there. So that's a great little item. All right. 3rd time's a charm. We're not going to count whether this was 3 or not. All right. Threads up. Oh, yeah, that feels a whole lot better.
So Cheryl wants to know, she doesn't have one of the machines that we were talking about, the Vikings and everything. She just has a brother, and she wants to know, can she still do this, or does she have to buy a special foot for it?
You have to have the Westalee foot if your machine company doesn't make one. So like this is the foot made by Viking, but it's only for the Epics and the Brilliants. It's not going to fit any of those others. I don't care what they tell you. And so this is the foot that fits for these. Otherwise, I have over here, when I'm teaching this class, if I were using this machine to teach with, I would be using my Westalee foot. This is my Westalee foot, high wall, round opening. And so we have at Westalee feet that will fit over 7,000 machines. So I'm sure that we have one that will fit your machine. You can't just use any foot. And because I had everything on here today, you didn't get to see it, but I also have my glider on. You can see that green glider over here. My glider's underneath there. So that glider is allowing my fabric to move smoothly. Now, since I turned it, I got to get out a couple more Wonder Clips, and you'll just take my word for it that that's what I'm doing. And I'm going to pin up this side so it's not hanging in front of me. And people will ask, can I quilt a large quilt? Yes, you can. And again, if you haven't seen it, I did a show on, or one of the videos a couple months ago on what is called the weightless quilter that is available through Sew Study or your local quilt store preferably. And that weightless quilter is perfect because it takes the weight, and all of this extra that's in front of you would not be in front of you with the weightless quilter. And so you can use the weightless quilter to quilt a large quilt. But don't jump into something like that as your first time project. This is a great size to get started. I'm sitting here going, I can't believe it took me all of that to figure out that the reason I was having issues was because it was catching on not anything else but me.
Yeah, but you know, Dolly said she loves it when you have a problem and work through it because they get to watch it right along with you.
That was a very simple one, causing my skip stitches and everything else. And all it was me. So this is going to look a whole lot better. And probably, if the truth were told, after this video, I'm just going to take out that whole other one, and that way I won't have to mess with it. Now what I want to do here is I'm going to check. It's not like I'm sneaking a peek on you guys, but I want to make sure I've got all of these stitched before I actually take this out. So I'm raising that up. Megan's laughing at me. So.
No, I'm laughing. Somebody sent a sad face, and I think that's because you have to take out the whole design.
Oh, I don't even bother with that. That's fine with me. Okay, so these threads are going to go to the back, but you can see what that looks like right there. Can they see that, Megan?
Let me get it just a moment. Let me move it.
There you go. So in the end, we've got about 1.5 inches between here. Now that means you could make more circles if you wanted to on the center. So now that I've gotten down to this area, that's what I'm going to do is show you how we did those circles. So let's get those threads out of the way, and let's go down to this particular one. And this is working out from the center. You can see this would be my next one out here from the center. So I want to show you that, and then we're going to use that.
So I have a question. You started in the center with your circle, then you moved out. Do you do all of these?
I would do all of these first. Yeah, I mean, next. I would go around and I would do this. But in essence of time, you've seen me do this one. Obviously, I'm going to be coming down here and doing one that I'm only using 4.5 or 3.5 petals on. Actually, it's 3 2/2. But I want to do the circles next because that's where this is coming out. So I'm going to spare you the craziness of what I went through. But right here is where we have got a ton of fabric because this is our little 3D fun. So underneath there, if I go to the back and I stick my thumbtack up, because that's what I need for the Circles on Quilts template, if I stick that thumbtack up, there's nothing there. It's not tall enough. So a simple resolution, what you're going to do is, unless you lose it,
Taped it right there.
oh, there it is. You're going to take a thumbtack, and this is the one that came with my Circles on Quilts, and I am using my tape that I tape my gates in with.
Which is your R&K
Which is my R&K embroidery tape, that's right. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that right in the center. So now I was able to put my thumbtack on because it wasn't going to fit through all that other. And what I want to do is use my ruler and make sure I've got it centered both ways. So I need to move that just a smidge.
Oh, they're liking that idea.
It's a great idea. It makes it so much easier. And now, Megan, wasn't my first one 5 inches? I think my first one was 5.
Yes, I think you tried it at 4 and it didn't work.
It didn't work. So let's come out here and let's look. And this is another great reason I love my ruler, and this is my design of a ruler, is because I can put this 0 here in the center, and I can come out and see, okay, that's a 2.5 inch circle, so that's 5. I could measure across there, and I can get my 5. It doesn't matter how I do it, but there's a lot of reasons I like to be able to put a 0 in the center and measure out. So, coming up to this particular point again, I'm going to pick my template that has the 5 on it. So this is the one. I know you can't hardly see it, but it's right there. Now stay awake with me because there's some tricks to this. I'm setting this on here, and you'll notice that my templates don't have any stable tape on them. You could put stable tape on this template, but you really don't need to because it's going to be moving anyway. That's the whole idea. Now, you will notice that I set it on here, and I actually have on this template a line. And that line is going to be what I line up on my line to start. Not for any more reason than the fact that when I pull up my thread, I want it to be right in my seam line. So I'm putting my template on my thumbtack. I'm bringing it to the location of the seam where I'm going to start. And I'm going to put my foot down so it fits in there. And I'm going to raise my bobbin thread up so that it comes up to the top so that I've got control. And I'm setting my foot back down and my needle back down. Now, with this particular template, you have a channel that is just a smidge wider than your foot. You need to select whether you're going to push against this side of the template in the channel or this side of the template in the channel. Now, Megan, can you get real close down in there so that they can see that space in that channel?
Take it off.
I hope you can see that extra space right there in the channel. So if you hugged the inside on part of it and the outside on part of it, when you get back around, you're not going to have a complete circle. Now, this is a perfect time to show you guys something that I found out as I was using different machines. So for those of you that are using the Viking Epic or the Viking Brilliance line, and you are using the Viking foot, that foot is not quite as big around as this foot. So you can see that there's a lot less space left over from this foot to that foot. So when you're doing your work and we need to measure 1/4 inch, you're probably not going to see you're not going to be able to use that exact 1/4 inch, because from your needle to the front of your foot, if you're using a Viking foot, is not a true 1/4 inch. It's less than 1/4 inch. And you'll see me use that in just a moment. Is it a problem? No. But it's something that you need to be aware of, because if you have issues, it's going to be because of that. So let's go ahead and put that camera back up and we'll get started.
And is that only for the Viking foot? That's not for any of the other machines?
None of the others. I've used the Bernina foot. I've used the Janome foot. I've used several other brands that have their own foot. It's only the Viking foot that's not quite as big as the others. And for that reason, it cannot use our Echo Guides. You guys have seen me use Echo Guides, and the Echo Guides will not fit on this foot. So if you're purchasing a foot, You may want to purchase both of these because this one is one that's going to allow you to use the echo guides. All right, back to the generics of this foot for this template for everybody. I talked about stable tape. You really don't need any because you're going to be moving it. But if you want to put stable tape on, I would put one up here, one over here, and one right there. So one just that's close to the knee or to the thumbtack, and then one that's up here and up here because that's where you're going to do it. Now, when I was taught how to use this template, I was taught that you started in the back of the channel and you worked your way to the front of the channel. It didn't work for me. You try what works for you. But it's better for me to start at the open end so that I don't fall out of my template. So all I'm going to do is I am going to hold that right there in that place, and I'm going to go right back, and it'll stop. I mean, there's no guessing, ladies and gentlemen. It's right there. So I move it again. I hold it in place. You notice I got a finger over here on this one. And I stitch, hugging that inside because that's what works for me. I'm hugging the inside. I rotate this, hug the inside, rotate. Oh, this is so much fun, you guys. And I'm not having to rotate my fabric. And because I have quilted this with 60 weight thread, it goes right over the seams. Coming around here.
So Nanine says you're going backwards, which for you, yes, you're kind of going
If you want to call it backwards, I'm going, and it wouldn't matter which way I did this because I could take my template and turn it over and go the other way. I'm almost back to start. So right here is where I started. You can already see a little bit about how that has puffed up that center there. Hence the buttons and bows name for this. Okay, now I could stop here and tie my threads, but I got a little secret for you. I'm going to just take this template off. I leave this right in place. This is a straight edge. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this up against there, and I know I am going to move out a 1/2 inch. Now, for those of you that are still not comfy with all of that yet, just take a ruler and lay it down there. Get your marker that suddenly seems to always be.
Do your markers walk away? Because ours walk away.
Our markers just seem to walk
Here
away.
they are, right behind you somehow.
So I'm going to be moving over a 1/2 inch. And so right there is my 1/2 inch. That's where I want my needle to go. So this is where it's different. So if I set this up here, and because I've told you use your spacing gauge, if I use my 1/4 inch, I think you can see. Go ahead, Megan, and get right down in there. Do you see that space is bigger where my spacing gauge is? And that's because from this needle to the front of that foot is not a true 1/4 inch.
So Lillian, you were asking about this. This is the trick.
This is the trick. You're going to have to just allow a little less space so that it's a true equal distance. I don't know what it is, but it's not a 1/4. And I'm using the straight edge simply to stitch in the ditch to get over to that next starting spot. And when I'm over there, then you can see I didn't have to mess with tying my threads or anything. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my other template that goes to my 6 inch. So here's my one that's my 6 inch. I'm putting it on, and looky there. When I come back, it's right where I want it to be. So I'm going to now just continue around there. And just because some of you were wondering what I meant by could go both ways, I could flip this over this way, and I could stitch this direction each time. I can't now that I've already started, but I could do that, whatever you're comfortable with. Just stay on the same whether you're on the inside part of the acrylic or on the outside part.
And depending on their comfortability, they could go from the inside, like you're going outside.
I'm going open fingers to close.
Yeah.
That's the way I call it. And I will tell you, try both ways, but I fell off the template too many times and had ugliness in my circle. And so this keeps me so I can't go any farther. I have to stop because that's what's there. And you can see I'm completing my circle without ever going in an exact circle. So now I'm back to where I started. And this is now the same as what I have in the center. If I wanted to do another one at another distance out, whether it was that 1/2 inch, because you can see I'm a 1/2 inch away, but I went from a 5 to a 6 inch circle. So from the center out, it's 3 inches, or from the center out, it's 2.5. And I could do another one. I'm not going to because I want it to look like that other one that I have up there, but I could do another one at 6.5, so it would only be 1/4 inch away. So you can see it would be moving 1/4 inch this way, and it would only be 1/4 inch like that. So you can do whatever you want. I'll turn this around the other way so you get the idea of what I'm talking about. If I moved over here just 1/4 inch in that seam allowance, I would then be in this one, and it would put a circle only 1/4 inch away from there. So I wanted this to kind of give the buttons and bows type thing, and so that's why I did it this way. Now I'm going to quickly do another one just like this, because some of you are like, well, I'm not sure I understood what she's saying. And I like for you to understand what's going on. So I've cut my threads. I'm going to take off my tape. And I'm going to come down here to the other corner. And I want to get everything laying nice and flat. If you don't, I haven't, right there is some stitching, but it's going to come out. I'm going to put this because that's the one I have to redo. So I'm going to put this on there. I'm going to tape it. That's why I love R&K tape. It doesn't leave a nasty, but it's strong enough. It's good that way. And it's good that way too. So what I'm going to do, oops, I pushed that back. I need to go over just a smidge. I can usually do about 3 of these. And then I just need to get a new piece of tape. And the reason for that is because that's holding everything in place when you do those circles. So first circle is a 5, and the next circle is a 6. So let's get that 5 in here. And for those of you that want to see it going the other way, I'm flipping my template over. I'm coming into this spot right here. And I want to put my foot down so I can get it right in the spot that it needs to be, because I'm hugging this side. So I'm going to set my needle in place, pull up my bobbin thread, now I've got that thread pulled up. I don't have to have that needle, so I'm just going to get this set where I want it to be. Now put my needle down. And this time I'm coming towards me. Same template, oh, that's why I don't like that with that one. It goes underneath here. I do better going the other way, and that's the reason. So let me just cut that thread. I'll pick those few stitches out later, and we'll start again. Already fell off the wagon before I even got started. It's there. Come on, baby. got it so close. There we go. So I'm going to come right in there, put that needle down, get these threads out of my way, and that's why I want to hold really close right here. Make sure I haven't pushed my pin out of the way, and hold this really close down there.
I got 2 great questions that just came in. Cheryl wants to know, every time you do a circle, do you have to tie off the thread?
You got to do something.
But you moved in the ditch, right?
Right.
So
you can
not
move,
every
no,
circle.
not every circle. If you could move in the ditch, so like if you were doing even like a Baptist fan design, if there's a way to move in the ditch, and I'll show you that again.
And then Lillian wants to know, do you advise stitching 1/8 of an inch all the way around the quilt before you start quilting?
No. No, I don't, because things are going to move. You do what works for you. If you're used to doing that and it works for you, fine, but I do know that the fabrics are going to move. And just changing this distance kind of throws me off a little bit. You can see I'm not as smooth doing it this way because I'm used to doing it the other way. So it's whatever way you get used to doing this. Whatever works for you is the best way. Now, I'm back to where I started. And this is what I'm going to be doing is I'm taking it off and I'm going to stitch in the ditch. Now when you get real comfortable with this, you can just kind of slowly stitch in that ditch to the side. I still like to use a straight edge, but I'm just coming over there, my 1/2 inch.
So Cheryl, she just finished a circle. You didn't tie off
I haven't tied it off those threads because I'm going to tie these off, and then all I'll have to do is tie the end off rather than stopping every single. If I was putting 6 circles, I'd still only have a starting spot and an ending spot because I moved over. Now I'm going to be doing the 6 inch. I'm going to go ahead and do it the way that seems uncomfortable for me, but I want you to see how that works. So I've stitched that. My needle, I've come over a 1/2 inch. I feel like I need to go like maybe a smidge more. Just that little smidge more made my template relax and sit in there correctly. Now remember, this is the side I'm working on, so that's where I have to keep my fingers good and in place because I don't want my foot to go underneath my template because there's nothing out here holding this acrylic. Yeah, I don't care if you put a little piece of staple tape on every one, it's not going to stay down because you have to put the pressure on it.
With your fairy fingers,
Yeah,
right?
with your fairy fingers. So here I am moving that again. I'm pressing against the closest side to the center. So I need to get in here. You can probably see my thumb, but I'm getting in there just to hold that down with my thumb and move on around.
So
now,
Sandy's at, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I can't even imagine what this would have been like to deal with this had I pieced that with 40 weight or 50 weight thread. That's why I almost preach the 60 weight thread in the top at least, and 80 weight or 60 weight in the bobbin. But once you get used to doing this, you're going to absolutely love this circle. It has nothing to do with when I've shown you circles using the table. This is totally different. This is quilting. And so now I'm back to where I started. I came right back to where I started. And the thing that I love about this, and I wish you could see it as well as I can see it, but because of the fact that I use 2 layers, now mine's a very thin bat, ladies and gentlemen. This is an extremely thin bat. But because I put 2 layers there, this just kind of pops. It just pops that up, and my whole idea for buttons and bows. So I'm going to tie these 2 off. So go ahead, and you got a question for me.
Yeah, you asked a great question. Why do you use different templates? One for the 5 and one for a 6. It looks to me like I could do it with 1.
Well, you could, but your circles wouldn't be as close because the templates only go odd number and even number. This is even number because you can't have smaller spaces here. So they had to put all the even numbers on one and all the odds on another. So once it's one of those things that once you try it, you'll understand exactly what I'm talking about. But until you actually do it, you know, because I know when I got that template, I was thinking the same thing. I just thought, why in the world am I fussing all of this? I could do this with a whole lot less. Well, then when I got to it and was using it, oh, this is my thread that I got to take out. Okay.
So then Fran also asked, what is the largest circle you can make with that set?
12. Or maybe 12 and a half. Let me see. 12 inch. It goes all the way from, I believe it's 3.
2. Okay,
it goes all the way from 2 up to 12. So you can do 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5. You can have every quarter of an inch up to 12 inches.
But those all come as a set, right? So.
Correct. That's a whole set, and that's why I said don't just get the 2-piece set. Get the 4-piece set so you've got all of them. All right, if you look at our picture for our, I can't get that one, you'll have to hand me this one. If you look at our picture here, down in this area, this is the same one as we did up here. So what I'm going to be doing in this corner, this is where the border joins. Remember, I don't have a white border here. I just wanted you to be able to see where that's at. And so what I'm going to be doing is, I'm going to take my my crosshair grid, and I'm going to keep making sure that this is laying good and flat. I set my join spot right underneath that. So right in here is right where everything meets. Again, I'm going to just take my marker and mark. And I know that we put on here a 3-inch border. So I know how far out. I'm going to make this so you can see it, even though I know where that's at. I know how far out this is going to be able to go. It'll come to right here, so it won't get into where my binding's going to turn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this in here. I can tell you, ladies, if you have questions on this late at night, I'll probably be over here quilting this because I'm just having too much fun with it. Needle down, needle up, foot up, and I can pull up my thread, and that one's long enough because I cut it instead of use the cutter on my machine. Needle back down, and now I'm going to do one right here on this seam line. Now I chose my thread to be so that it will show up on the blue, but in here it's just going to accent. It's going to show you what your quilting's looking like, but it's not going to be, I mean, if you wanted to actually see all of it, and I realize we haven't done one of the designs, actually 2 of them yet, but I wanted it to show on my border, but not be so obvious in the other part. Oh, I shouldn't have moved that. There we go. And I gotta go over here.
So Cheryl wants to know if will the video be on again. Yes, Cheryl, as soon as we're done here,
it goes up again.
It'll be archived and you can watch it over and over and over again. So the questions come up, when you use the marker, do you need to keep that marker to one side of the crosshair template?
It's not really that, you know, touchy, so to speak.
So there's not as much space as there was with that foot that you were showing earlier.
Right. I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of a difference, but how do you know? Do you go to the right or do you go to the left? I mean, it's like, which one you're going to do? And as sure as you go to the right, then it's going to go the other way. So I've got a shredded thread. In the essence of time, I'm just going to cut this and I'll finish this one later because I want to get on. You know, you've already seen me do this one. I'm just showing you position here.
So if the ladies and gentlemen out there are starting to have this kind of what the issue you're doing, what should they do then if they're getting this?
If you're having shredded thread and it's consistent, you're going to change your needle because that means your needle is bad. I don't think that's what my situation is here, but I've cut off the shredded part and I am going to rethread. Now I will tell you that I've got some thread. I'll just be straight up honest. This machine here, and it's not just because it's an Epic, but this machine, my machine, not every Epic, just so you understand, it doesn't like Aurifil thread. I don't know why. I've tried to tell it it's awesome thread, but it doesn't listen to me. And I do want to show you, even though I'm not finished with this, you could leave this design just like that. It kind of looks almost like a butterfly. I guess I need to get it up. So this one is not there, and this one is not there, so there's 3 and 3. But what I want to show you now, we're going to come into this big space, and it doesn't matter which one you come into. Just pick one of them. I like to find the center simply by taking my ruler and going from side to side. Corner to corner, I should say. And then I'm going to go from corner to corner this direction. And I apologize that you can't see both corners. You're just going to have to take my word for it, because now there's my center.
Did you tell them what size needle to use?
This is a 90 top stitch needle with 40 weight thread. That's what we want to use with 40 weight.
In the top and the bobbin?
You said needle.
I know. I'm sorry. You
90
went to
weight thread, or 40 weight thread in both, yes. Okay. I got to remember, let me see my template. I'm not sure this one might, I might need to use a different ruler. Oh. So this is the design that we're doing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. This is the one I need because I need to put in here 16 lines. So I've got everything centered and I have put in 8 lines. I'm going to now take this and rotate it so I can put a line in between each of those. And I am using all of the etchings on the template, on my crosshair ruler. This particular pen works perfect. This is my Frixon marker, and it fits right down in there, so my lines are all dead center. Someone was asking about that a while ago. My lines are all dead center because of the way this pen, or marker I should say, is fitted in that. So the template that we're going to use now is the Circles on Quilts number 16. Had it at the beginning of class.
Did it walk away as well?
Pardon us for a second while we try to find our template. And this one has the option of using it with a pen, a thumbtack. And that's what we're going to be using. Now I can get through my layers on this one. So I'm coming right to the center and going through those layers. Taking it out and bringing it back up from the bottom. Now I apologize that you can't see all of that, but I got to get it to the edge where I can work with it so I can get it right there in the center. And so now when I put this template down here on that, I don't know where my black piece keeps walking away to. I want you to notice that this is offset. So this hole right here that's in for the thumbtack, we are going to be lining this line up right here. It's offset. The other one we'll use in just a minute, but it's this one right down here. We are going to start at A, go all the way to D, back to C, and up to B. And we move it around to the next line. And when we do that, B will become A again. And you can see the lineups so we can know where we're lining up. I think it's always important for you to understand how a template works before you start jumping in there, because it can be very frustrating. You see A, B, C, and D, but to me, there should also be an E and an F and a G that takes you back up to where you are, rather than just saying, oh, you go from A to D and back to B. That can be a bit confusing. But we're going to make this work because this is the way you're going to use it. And so I'm coming in here to A. And you'll notice that when I put my needle down, my foot's already down, I'm putting my needle down, it goes right in that line that I have drawn. That line really doesn't mean anything. I'm lining up over here and here. And so this is just the fact that this line is drawn correctly. It's not like I had to be in a certain spot there, but I'm just pointing it out so that you realize that that means that the line is done and it's in the right spot. Question?
Yes, so since you're using a thumbtack again, the ladies want to know, can you use this thumbtack with the pink tape like you did before here as well?
You could. Not a problem. You certainly could.
I think a lot of them like that because it then doesn't put holes into their quilt.
It doesn't leave a hole, and that's right. You can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and put that needle down again, bring this back into place, make sure everything is lined up. I'm holding my template down, and I do have stable tape on there. I know you can't really see it on this white fabric. There's B, there's C, there's D. I'm back to C before you know it, and I come right back up and I stop at B. Now this is where you might want to put a ruler sticker. And since it's a stopping point, I like to use the one that's closest to the stop sign color. So I'm going to be using a pink one because that's what I have. I have blue, green, and pink. Pink's closest to red. And so if you've never seen ruler stickers, so much fun, I can put that right there at B. So it says, hey, stop here. These are ruler stickers. They are from G-Easy, and you can ask for them at your local quilt store. They should become readily available. They've come out in another package that has like parfait colors. So they are very helpful. So I'm going to leave that right there. This is my thread. I'm going to put it underneath and come out that opening there. And I'm going to move over. And for some of you, you'd be going, oh no, look, it's not right. There's a space right here. My foot is not. Don't worry about it. It's a starting point because of the fact that our needle is in the right place. This line is in the right place. We're coming around. I love my wreath. C, D, C, back up to B, and stop. And so right now you're going, I think I want that sticker because it definitely is a spot to tell you where to stop. Move to the next one. I've still got that little extra space. Not to worry. Once you line everything up, you will be fine.
We got lots of love for those ruler stickers.
So I'm coming here. It's even more space. It doesn't matter. I'm lining up my template so it's on the line, and I'm stitching. move over, line up. Now, this is going to sound like one of those tales that your parents told you when you were a kid. Back in the day, well, I've only been doing this for 5 years, ladies. Well, it's probably going on 6 now. But let me just tell you, we did not have anything like that crosshair grid. So when we were doing this, if I would have been using this template, which was available, I would have just been guessing all the time because I didn't have lines to line up with. But this makes all the difference in the world because when I get around, I'll have 16 because I have 16 lines. When I was doing some of those that are like in your sampler set, I would get around and I was supposed to have 8 and I had 7.5. What do you do with that?
So Lillian, no, it was Melanie, sorry, asked the question, when you get this template, does the sheet of instructions tell you where to stitch to?
You better hope you can get that figured out while you watch this. And you can remember that you can come back to this, bookmark it or make the date so that you know, because I will tell you, hang on. I figured it out by looking at the instructions and playing with the template, because here's what your instructions look like. And I'm going to be telling you how to do the echo here in a minute. But there's your instructions. Not so sure that they're completely understandable, but it does say to take D back to B and then to move over. So once you've seen me do it, you'll probably have it, so it's not a problem at all. I know somebody ordered, I think it might have been Susan Digman, ordered one of these templates, and she ordered the 9.5 this week because she knows she's going to be doing bigger blocks. So I did the 7.5. I have the whole set, but I did the 7.5 because I knew that that's the size that would fit in my 9-inch finished block. So I think you can do it. Even right now, you could kind of draw the shape of this so that you could put some arrows on it. So that you would know when you get it how it's going to work. But I do love this template. I don't like it when my thread breaks, though, I will tell you that. And it just did again. Thread it with the foot up.
So you're in the middle of a design, your thread broke, what are you going to do?
I'll tell you exactly what I'm going to do here. I'm rethreading my machine. I am going back to where the problem was, right back here. And I'm going to lift those threads out. That's why I like to use my seam ripper more as a lift. And you can see I've already got a pretty good sized thread there going. I don't want to, reposition and all of that. I certainly am not taking all of this off. But some of you probably know that this is not going to be a big problem because of the fact that I've got long enough thread that I can retie. I've retied like an inch-long thread before. It takes a little bit of practice and whatever, but with the cinch needles, you can always get those buried. So we're almost back, 2 more stitches. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull my bobbin thread up, and I'm going to cut it and leave it on the top. It's already up here. This is it right here. I think you guys are right down there with me so you can see it. So I'm pulling up my bobbin thread. I think there's a song there, but since I'm not a singer, I won't do that to you. And so I'm going to raise my foot and go right to that spot. Foot back down. And because I broke that bobbin thread, or actually cut that bobbin thread, you can see it came right up here. I never stitch with my threads on top of my foot. You want issues to happen, that'll be where they happen. So I'm taking the time to take this and go underneath here, and you guys will get used to having these issues, and there's no reason to get upset about it. It's just a matter of learning how to get out of the situation. And so I've got these threads here that later are going to get taken care of. Needle down. I think you might have heard my cat there. He was empathizing with me. So everything is in place. I want to make sure it's still on there. I'm going to get this around here so I can see my lineup. Oh, my machine told me that my thread broke, so I got to tell it. Guess what? I knew that. I guess if everything went perfect for me, you would think that's the way it was, and it's not. So I'm okay with having some mistakes. They're teaching moments. I'm lining up again. Now you'll notice this time right here, those of you that can see that that line's not exactly lined up, I'm just kind of taking that and giving it a little bit of help. And as soon as I start, it will be fine. But I don't want to let the ruler win, so to speak, because then when I get back to the very beginning, it's not lined up. And you can see this is lining up just perfect right there. And it's because I just kind of forced it on that other one. And after you take like 2 stitches, everything's cool again. Now I've got 2 lines here, but this one is not the right one, so I want to get it over on the correct one. Now, this is the last one. Right here is where I started. So what I'm going to do, and if I had you right here with me, I'd have you raising hands on this, because remember, this foot's not a true 1/4 of an inch. So if it were a true 1/4 of an inch, I would just set that up against there and I would push it until it was right. But this one is not. So when I set this in here, right there's where I want it to come to. I have to kind of do it at an angle because there's so much going on here. I'm doing this so it's just not quite out to that 1/4 of an inch, because I want it to come and hit right there. So I've got a thread from somewhere. I don't want to catch it. Okay, there we go. Now I need to measure again since I moved. So you can see I came right beside that. And now I'm going to come right back up here. Now I could have stopped clear down there in the center, but I wanted this part to look just like the rest of them, so it had double stitching. So this is where I'm going to stop. I'm going to raise my needle. I'm going to lift this up. I'm going to go ahead and take this off, and I'm going to cut this thread on the top. I'm going to go to the back, and just trust me, I'm lifting it up there right in your face. Probably looks prettier on the back. And so I've cut that thread also. And so now I think you can see I've got threads to tie off, but I think you can see my design. And we're actually going to echo this. Now you might choose not to echo it. I kind of like it without the echoing, but you can do whatever you want to do. But you need to leave that pen exactly where it was to start with. Because if you want to give me my black fabric back, the second part of this template requires a different pin spot. So we've got to use this pin spot. The first time around I used that one. This is the one we're going to use now. There's actually a hole right there. This won't mean anything at this point. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this on that pin hole. And now I've got this line to line up, and it will echo. So I'm going to come up here. I like to start over here, not in the dip. Needle down, needle up, foot up, and pull up that thread. So back over here, and what we're going to do is we're going to hold this template in place, and we're going to stitch the echo. Needle down to hold it in place, move this over, there's a line there I'm lining up, and I'm going to stitch the echo. Move it to the next spot, line up the line, stitch the echo. Now when you're setting this template, I'm going to tell you what happened to me the first time. I was like, there's no way I want that line that close. Well, you got to remember, it's away from where it starts because of the thickness of the foot. So you can see right here, see if I can get that into view. You can see right there that echo. Now I'm not going to do any more of it because I don't care for it myself. I'm just telling you, you might love it. I'm not fond of it. So I'm going to be taking that out. I just like this piece. And it's not a matter of work. It's just a matter of what I like and what I don't like. So we've got one more part of this to do. And you will know, sorry, you just got hit. I am so sorry. You will know all of how to do all of these different pieces. Now, if you've not seen my thumbtack holder before, it's nothing more than a pink eraser. And I just stick my thumbtacks. There's usually about 10 or 12 of them in there. And that holds my thumbtacks in place. All right, we have a border to do. And what we're going to be doing is we are going to take something straight. And I've already done this design, so this is a center point, and I want to just do this straight out from that center point. So I'm taking a straight line on my ruler and lining that up with my border. And I don't know if any of you stitched that this week, but did you like that new way of making sure you've got the right length on your border? I hope you did, because I'll tell you what, even 1/4 of an inch can make an ugly mess in your borders. So now what I'm doing is I've got this lined up. There's the center of my border. Now, I told you it's going to be 7 bows. That means 14 of the template. And this is going to go this way, and then it's going to go that way. And since there are 7, 14, it's going to be 7 halves this way and 7 halves that way. Well, I'm going to start in the middle, and I am going to work my way to one side with complete bows, and then we'll come back and we'll finish the other way. In a perfect world, you should be able to go along here and mark every 3.5 inches, and you would be able to do that. I find this is an easier way to do it. Now, I also want to mark a line going down this direction. Now, I want to show you, because in a minute, I'm going to tell you how to do this piece that comes around. I want to have a line that leaves 3/4 of an inch, because I'm going to bring 3/4 of an inch around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to see right now, I had a 3-inch border to start. I've taken off 1/4 of an inch, so it's now 2 3/4. So if I have my ruler laid right here, my straight line would be 1 inch from that edge there. And this line right here that I'm going to draw is where my binding is going to come to when I turn it. And you'll see in a minute, you just have to trust me for something. You'll see in a minute how this works. So that's where my binding's going to come to. So if I need a center line, I'm just going to take my ruler here and put that 1 inch center line, and this is my center line for my border, 1 inch from the edge. So I'm going to center it on that. So when I come down here, I'm drawing 1 inch because I'm going to need that. And that's going to be my center line. So now, what we're going to do is start right here in the middle. Needle up, needle down. Foot up. Pull up that bobbin thread. Put my foot back down first. Make sure everything is flat. And remember, I've worked my way. This has got a stitching in it. The next block down here has our circles in it. I still have one to show you yet, but I wanted you to see this because the other one will be pretty self-explanatory once you see how I did this one. So I'm going to go ahead and put that needle back down right in that center. Now I forgot to open my gate and put it in there, or I forgot to put it in with my gate closed, so I just open it up and put it in there. And I like to make complete bows, so I'm going to go ahead and set that on there. I'm going to go around this way, and I'm going to stop here. Now I'm going to show you how we can make these bows so that they have little flourishes in them. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my foot, leave it right there in the center, but over on this side, which I can't really show you right now, you'll see it in a minute, I am twisting my template so that the acrylic part touches the stitching. And I'm coming back and I'm putting in a little extra flourish. This one's not going to be as long. When I'm dead center, I turn this around, and what I'm going to do is I'm not exactly on the center, so I'm making sure I get there, and that's because I put those little flourishes in, and I want my bow to be right, and so everything is lined up, and I'm going to go around, and this time I'm putting the flourishes on the opposite side. So this is my stitch line. I'm moving this in like that. I know you guys are getting a bad glare off of the templates, and I'm trying to figure out where that's coming from.
It's your machine lights.
Okay, well, I can't do anything about that. And I'm going to come and move this in. And I'm going to move it in a little bit more, but not go out as far. And I'm in the center. Now I want to get right back to there, one stitch. And remember, I need to measure. So again, I've got to kind of figure out, is this, got to be a little bit different because this foot is a little bit different because I need to get right back on that stitching line. So I'm going to go slow. Oh, I made it. And I just do half of it. And I rotate because I don't want to stop and start all of these. So now I'm going to go around this way. I've got to get my fabric here. I'm going back and I'm coming back down here. And now this particular, the downside, I'm going to say, does the flourish on this side. Move it up again. Make sure I get right back to the center, and I'm ready to do this side. So I'm looking at it, should have left that needle down. I'm looking at it going, okay, that side's got double stitching. I don't want this side to have the double stitching. I want this side. So now we're going to go this way. Stop in the middle. Move this in. Oops. That'll happen now and then. I need to go this way. Do I stop and take that out? No, it's 3 stitches. It's not going to really matter. I'm going to line this up. And this time, my double stitching needs to be opposite. It was doubled on that side, so this time it's doubled on this side. So I'm going to start slowly to make sure I'm right on top of my stitching. And I get back to here. Rotate this around. Double stitching's down here, and I want it up here this time. This one goes on this side down here, so I'm going to come back that way. Pull it in. So, do we have any questions? I mean, I can just hear some of you going, I'm not following that, but I'm not sure exactly how to answer it unless you ask a question. This one gets it on this side, so got to come back around this side, so I'm coming right back to that center, because that center point will move on you when you're doing those little extra deals. And if you're really good, you could do this without all of this, but I'm not really good, you guys. I have to just measure and make sure everything lines up. I'm right back to where I should be. And now I'm going to stop and think, okay, how much of this have I got done? I've got 1, 2, 3 bows on this side. And if I have something out here, I think I'm done. I am not going to get 7 bows in there because I'm going to have a design out here. So it looks like we're going to have 5. I can't see over my machine, Megan. Is that what it's going to be? 1, 2, 3. Yep, that's what it's going to be. So you're going to have 5 bows. So this is the stopping point. Some of you are trying to overthink me on this because you're going, well, then you should have stopped in the center. No, I really shouldn't have, because I want this to look just like the rest of them. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to go to the back, and I'm going to cut this. And so when I put this out here, so that you can see it, you can see how our bows look going across there. So I've done 2 here. 1 is in the center, which makes it so that I'm going to be doing 2 more out this way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull all of my quilt, because it's just easier for me to do that, into here. And I'm going to measure, because I'm going to start right down in the middle here. So I have to measure, remember it's a little less than 1/4 of an inch. So that's where it's going to be, right there. So I'm going to put my needle down, my needle up, and I'm going to pull up because I cut that other one. And I'm coming right back to that space. Needles down. I'm trying to make sure I line up because, like I said, this is a real project. So I'm going to go around. and back to here. My other center bow does not have 2 stitching, so this is matching. And so now what I'm going to do is, remember now on this side, that's the one that gets the little feather. I move in, it gets another little feather. I'm going to get right back to that center because it kind of moved away. And I'm going to look back there and see, okay, which one got doubled? It was the one that was down, so it's going to be the one that's up this time. Now, if you don't want to put those little feathers in, this goes a whole lot faster, but I think they make it look more like bows. What do you think? Let me know.
So Tracy has a question. She says she uses her start-stop button on her machine rather than the foot pedal. She sets her speed, slider from medium, and uses the button on the machine. Will that work like what you do when you turn it around? She's got an older Janome machine.
If it's working for you, I'm not going to try and change your ways. I can do that too on my machine, but I can't. My machine does it, I can't. And the reason for that is I got enough going on with my hands without trying to control another button. So it's just totally up to you. If you can do it, it's perfectly fine to do it that way. Now my double stitching is going on this side, so I'm coming this direction. And that's, when I say that, that's not meant in an ugly way at all. It's just that I can't do it. I've tried it, but I can tell you I have taught women who are like wheelchair bound, and they're used to using their button all the time, and they do fantastic with it. So if you're used to it, then you can do that too. I personally just can't do it. So I think, Megan, this is my last one. Is it the last one from center?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. So this would be number 5.
So I'm finishing number 5. And so I've got, that was doubled, so we're going to go this way. Actually, it's not doubled on this. And this one's going to get down from here.
So when they're looking at your picture pattern, there's 7 bows.
They're going to make it into 5. I'll need to change my picture because in actuality, they don't need to have that. So needle up, foot up. I'm going to pull this out, and we're going to see our completion here. Got lots of threads to tie, but that's your bows.
And they all agreed they love the little feather accents because it makes it look more like a bow.
So there's what you've got. And obviously my lines will just press right out. Now at this point, it looks like we've not centered this. But what I'm going to show you in just a few minutes, I've got one more design doing this same template. But what I'm going to show you is our binding that will come onto the front of that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this around here. Well, I don't need to. I can work it right here. Right here is where we need to put one of those that is going to be like 3 2/2. Okay? So I'm going to take my 8-point again, and I'm going to set it right here on the center where that line is, and this is going to go right. We don't even need to draw those lines because they're already there. And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to take this, needle down, up. I could spend all day using just a few templates and get a lot of variation on what we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and with that foot down, put that needle down, and I'm going to show you a little trick on this. If you wanted to, you could have laid this here and started over at this spot. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this here, and I'm going to go out to that spot, stop right there, and come back in. I'm going to do the top one like this, or the straight up one. I'm going to do it twice. just so it looks the same, like a little extra heavy. I'm going to come over to this one, and I'm going to come out to my line and back in. Now I could do this line the same way, or I can just do it once, because there's no reason I need to do it twice. And it just kind of gives it a little bit of a different look. And just that easy, you have done a design that is compatible, goes with everything else you're doing, and yet you didn't use any different templates. It's going to fit in there size-wise, because I checked that one out. The only thing I messed up was how many of the others we needed. So there's what your design looks like at those points. So if you're looking at our photo of what we're doing here, I think we're going to back off so they can see that there. Let's look at this one right here. We've done the circles. We've done these, which are the same as these out on the corners. We've done your border, and we just now did this, and we've also done these, whether you choose to echo them or not. So you have learned all of those different things all on this project, and I think when you get it finished, and I think when we get our lines ironed off, you're going to absolutely love it. Now I want to show you a way to finish this. I can't finish this one yet because I haven't finished my quilting, but I'm going to show you a way to finish this that will make it easy and something you're going to love. But I want to turn this over so that you can see our back. Isn't that pretty? I've got a couple of threads to get out of there, but that's your back and what it's going to look like, and your circles here. So your buttons and bows are going to be a lot of fun. Now, the way we do this was actually a piece that was an 18-inch quilt. And you can see, if I took it off of my little rings here, you can see that it was a quilt. And I cut it up so that I can demo this particular template to you. So it looks like I got to take, it's a brand new one here. It comes in a package that looks like this. You got one that's already open, Megan? Probably not. It comes with a template that looks like this, and you're just going to take your seam ripper point. It's okay, I got this one. Okay. And this particular paper is going to come off the back real easy. Yeah, she said. Sorry about that. I would have had this done if I'd have known it was that way, but it comes this way. And so all we're going to do is we're going to rip this paper off, and the slower you rip, the easier it's going to come off. I know that sounds crazy, but she's found one for me, but I'll just go ahead and use this one. So that comes off. Like I said, the slower you rip, the easier it is. And this is called the Quick Easy Miter Binding Tool. It's a tool that I designed back in 2005. And it's made my life a whole lot easier, and I think it'll make your life easier too. So this is my quilt top. I have cut my batting even. Now, I can't find my little sample, but if you had something where you had flying geese points coming in, and they came in and stopped 1/4 of an inch from the edge, you would simply want to leave an additional 1/2 inch of batting. So if you left that additional 1/2 inch of batting, then you would be measuring from that extra batting out. But on this one, I cut it even. Now I will tell you, I used to teach 7th and 8th grade. And so when I got ready to sell this tool, excuse me, I tested it with those kids, that age kids. Because I'm a picture person, I want you to see that it does have a ton of pictures in here to guide you through how to do this. Okay? So I'm going to show you the long and short of it. I think you'll really like doing this. So I have cut my batting up to the edge of my quilt. I did that with scissors because I did not want to, cut the backing. And then, I'm going to have to get a drink, ladies, just a moment. And then I used a rotary cutter and a ruler, not this particular one, although you could use it. And I cut so that this was 1.5 inches larger with my rotary cutter. And so with my rotary cutter, it's 1.5 inches larger. You do that on all 4 sides. And then you take it to the ironing board and you press in. And let me tell you a little bit, there's a difference between pressing and ironing. You are going to press. So you turn this in and you press. You turn more in and you press. You don't iron because that stretches your fabric. So you just press it so it comes up to the edge of your quilt. Do that on all 4 sides. The reason you do that first is because now we're going to use this tool and we're going to use it with some sort of a marker. And if it's an iron-off marker, you can't mark it and then come back and have those lines still there when you press it. So now what we're going to do is you will notice that this part of my template, that square, nothing magic about the size, but that square is my quilt, and I simply lay that on top of the lines right there, and then I draw across this corner. After I've drawn that, what I'm going to be doing is taking my marker, and where the line intersects my folds, I draw those. And that's the way we do all 4 corners. And then you're just going to turn this over and fold that back so you're looking at those lines you just drew, and you're going to take a pen. Now we're going to see how smart this pen is, because if I've got this laid right on top of there, when I put that through that intersection, well, that one was pretty smart. It came right out where it should. But we're going to pretend that it didn't, and I'm just going to pop it off of there and put it back in and make sure it comes out, because what we want to do is get those lines right on top of each other, and we're going to pull that head clear down to the surface of the fabric, and then we're just going to take it and back it off and put it in like this. And the next step, we are going to take that to the sewing machine. Obviously, you're going to be doing all 4 corners like that. You're going to take it to the sewing machine, and you are going to stitch. You're going to stitch from the middle of this section, either back to the fold or up to that intersection and then back, because you want both of these back stitched. And again, I would recommend using that with a 2.0 stitch length, something that's shorter than the regular stitch length. So start here, stitch to there, stitch to this intersection, and not a stitch more, and back to the middle here. And then you're going to be cutting this off so that all you're leaving is the 1/4 inch. So at that point, it looks like this. Now mine's kind of ragged because it goes to shows with me all the time. And so this was cut off 1/4 inch. And then I actually trimmed it to the point just like you normally would, but don't cut into your stitching. And then all you need to do is when this is laid down, you're going to take a point turner, and you're simply going to lay the point turner on the point. Now this is kind of backwards for me, but it's easier for you to see this way. And you're going to push that through. And so now this is just going to lay right back up on there. Now this is 3/4 inch, and it's going to turn under. There's no raw edges. And so that's going to give you the perfect miter. And so when you've laid that all down and pinned it, it's going to look just like that. You can see we've got a miter, we've brought the back to the front, and then what I like to do is you can either use like a blind hem foot. I actually use on this machine what's called a left edge top stitch foot, and I put that foot right on like that. Some of you can probably see there's just a little tiny red line there. And I select a narrow zigzag. Megan, you want to hand me that Christmas quilt? Or actually, the very one in the back will be fine. No, in the back. This has that same finish, but I think you can see it easier. I use a narrow zigzag stitch. And that narrow zigzag stitch works with you, and it comes all the way around. If you use a straight stitch, you're going to have this kind of pushing that way. But the narrow zigzag, when you're finished, you can hardly even tell it's there. Could you hand stitch? Absolutely. Hand is a 4-letter word for me, so I don't like to do that. But I encourage you to put your pins in so that they are perpendicular to the direction you're stitching. And when you get up to them, then you'll just take them out. Now, when I stitch this, I like to use a tool like this. This is actually something that you pull. This is a clover tool, and you actually pull elastic through a casing or ribbon through a casing or whatever. But I like it because it's flexible, and they just lay down, and so as you're stitching, you just pull forward, and it just makes it so much easier to keep everything flat because of the fact that it's flexible. And anyway, that's a very easy way. I have, done placemat sets that there's like 10 placemats in a set, and you can do that way quicker than doing add-on binding. Now, it's not something that you're probably going to put on an heirloom quilt, or something that you like to have a heavier binding on many things, but this works perfect on those quilts that are going to be used for like a wall hanging or a table mat or, anything like that. Placemats, it just makes it so much easier. So that's the Quick Easy Mitered Binding Tool. Ask for it at your local quilt store. It is something I designed, so you can get it on my website. And we also have the one that's called Dual Angle. And the Dual Angle tool has 2 angles on it so that you can do the octagons or the hexagons, that is an octagon, the octagons and the hexagons, and do it the same way. So if you have those different shapes or you have something that comes to a point, you can actually do that. That's a separate tool. It looks very similar to this. It's still green, but it has 2 different angles on it. And so you can do that. It was funny because once I got this one done, a lot of the educators that were using it and selling it said, hey, don't you know, we've got all of these different shapes now. You got to get another one. So that's what we did. So hopefully that gives you a new idea, an easier way. I love it. I've had people tell me they've had projects in the closet that are finished except for the borders except for the binding. And that has made it so much easier. So let's get our quilt back over here, and if anybody has any last-minute questions, fire away. This one's been fun. I enjoy every time I get to be with you, but this one's been fun since we were doing a project and trying to show you a lot of different things that you could do with your templates. And again, if you have any questions, just keep asking them there, because I do go back. I don't know, it's caught on something. There we go. I do go back and look at them. And on this one, I'm just going to flip it over because I think you can see the whole thing on the other side so much better. So thank you for giving me 2 hours of your time tonight. I didn't know for sure how long it would take. I guess we could have spread this out for 3, but I'm glad we've got this one done. And after you get yours finished, you have to promise on Westalee by Me, if you're not a part of that Facebook page, you need to get on there and share your finished projects so everybody can see what everybody's done. I'm really excited about doing this in even a bigger quilt because I'm really liking this whole idea of the bows. So thanks for joining us. Megan and I enjoy every minute with you guys. If you have questions, please leave us a note there. Have a great weekend and a great week. Bye for now.